Hey, it's your boy JC. This is episode 71 of the Dream10X podcast, and we're here at an undisclosed location. We're at home now. Got the fire going, getting the toasty Christmas vibe happening. Trying to, anyway, with all the busy holiday season. It's kind of nuts, but this episode is about this book. It's called One Straw Revolution by Masanobu Fukuoka, who's a Japanese farmer. And this book came out in 1978. And I don't know where this one came out, but it's nice because it kind of fits in the theme of what we've been talking about the last couple episodes. The last one was Enduring Seeds by Gary Paul Nabhan. Oh, it's a little cozy, aren't we? Are we going to start kissing here in a minute? So talking about farming, and this Mr. Fukuoka presents an interesting take on farming, which is much different than the way most farming takes place today. And so that was really cool to find out about. So I'll type up a list of the top 5 takeaways that I got from this book, but just generally speaking, he was a guy who lived post World War II, and he was a scientist. He worked with plants to some degree. I forget exactly what he did, but he experienced a kind of they didn't say it in the book, but what I took away was kind of a mental breakdown. He had like a time where he got sick, and he got fed up with how hard he was working and everything, and it sounded like he kind of snapped. Like he just came out and. You know, in the book, in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, there's kind of a poem that says, I think it's a Song of Solomon, kind of like Solomon saying, everything is vanity, nothing really matters. And that's kind of what he came to his conclusion was, Fukuoka's, that we don't know anything as humanity. Everything is just wasted effort. We don't all knowledge that we go out and try to gain is useless. And so, yeah, it's
a very Buddhist philosophy.
Very Buddhist. I kind of put him between somewhere between absolute nihilism, where like nothing is matters, and whatever, to Shoshin, where you have a constant beginner's mind. So he sounded like he fell somewhere in the middle of that, like, but maybe he was more of a nihilist. I don't know. Like he sounded like after he had his episode where he got sick from work, when he finally got better, he went back to work. He turned in his resignation and he said, "That's it. I'm not doing this anymore." And he went to go live on a farm. And so for 30 years or more, he cultivated a skill of natural farming.
That's amazing.
So instead of using chemicals and tilling the soil and all that stuff, he worked out methods for how you could grow plants as naturally as possible that would sustain him in the style of living that he chose to live. He apparently just had mud huts on a mud hut or two or a couple, sounded like, on his farm. And he would sow the seed right on top of the soil. He wouldn't till it. He wouldn't put down any chemicals or herbicides or anything like that. And instead, he would put the seeds underneath a layer of straw. And that's kind of the origination of the title of the book, One Straw Revolution. So the straw would help serve as compost, and it would help keep the birds and stuff from being able to get at the seed. And then with the regular seed, you would plant white clover. And so I'm aware of the value of white clover. We've used it ourselves. Yeah. And so I liked reading about how he would use it to also help keep the weeds, naturally keep the weeds from coming up. So if the white clover grows or sprouts before the weeds come up, then that white clover is going to help keep those weeds at bay. So he calls himself a lazy farmer because he's not doing all the regular hard farming work of tilling the soil and taking the weeds out and applying the chemicals and all that. He's basically just throwing the seed down on top of the soil. And the reason he does that, or the reason he wants to do, he thinks that's a better way forward, is because when you till the soil, when you plow the soil, it releases it breaks up that topsoil. That topsoil is very, very rich, and it can blow away. The rain can wash it away. You lose those nutrients when you do that. But if you keep it the way it is, with the weeds and stuff that are already on there, and you just throw on the other plant seeds on top of that, then you help retain those minerals and those nutrients in that soil.
That's very logical.
It's very logical, but why don't we do it?
Yeah.
Why has modern farmer not adhered to that? And when the modern farmer, I'm not a farmer. I don't know anything about it, but from what he says, when the regular modern farmer uses their equipment to till the soil, they are then because they lose the nutrients right away when you plow and all that stuff. You're forced to use chemicals and herbicides to get the same amount of production as you would if you were a natural farmer. Now, he claims that his natural farming method produces the same amount, if not a little bit more, than the modern farming methods.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool. So
I'd
why
be curious
don't
to
we
actually
use
see
natural?
that.
Why don't we use natural farming?
I'd love to see the data around that.
I don't know where you can get that, but
I don't know either. I think it's a really very interesting proposition.
He talks about the exact output comparing an acre to an acre of
he does?
farming.
Okay.
Yeah, and what the output is.
I need to read the book, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't take a note of that, but he definitely states that. How many bushels?
Yeah,
how many
that's what I was
tonnage-
curious about, like what the
tonnage per acre that he gets, which is the exact same, if not more, than modern farmers.
pretty incredible.
Yeah. So enjoyed reading that, but it's more than just farming techniques in this book. It's a philosophy of life, which I really appreciate. I think a lot about modern day life and why we get stuck in the beliefs and the patterns that we do when we're born. Christmas, for example, or Hanukkah, or what are the other holidays that we follow? What does a Christmas tree have to do with anything? It's like
it was
like
taken
Easter,
from Yule.
like Easter. What do the bunny rabbits and all that stuff have
That was
anything
taken
to
from
do?
the pagans.
But why exactly? But it's not what we celebrate as Christians or Jews or whatever.
No, but they were trying to incorporate it into Christianity.
All I'm saying is it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Okay. But we do it anyway, right?
Yeah. So we don't question it. We just do it.
Exactly. Why do we commute into our job? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense from a environmental perspective. It doesn't make any real sense from a worker productivity perspective, in my opinion. Why do we have mortgages, and why do we live the way we live without kind of questioning it? It's our parents did the same thing. Their parents kind of did the same thing. There's not a lot of questioning about why we're doing what we're doing. We're just stuck in these kind of mindless loops in society. And so I really enjoy how he questioned all of that and said, screw it. I'm going to go live the simple life, and that's it. I'm just going to do it.
It's awesome.
So he turned in his resume and he went and he became a farmer. And he survived just by the fruit of the land, basically, and in a simple mud hut. He didn't have any electricity or anything like that. It was just candle lights at night. He had to go collect water from a local spring. I really wanted to hear how they went to the bathroom and how he handled the sewage.
Yeah.
It wasn't in there, but I'm really curious about that part. It could just have been as simple as just dig a hole whenever you got to go. But I am curious if he had a little bit more modern convenience there. I don't know. So I really appreciated his thought that you don't have to live the modern life, and you can still live a fruitful, joyful life. And in fact, if you shun all these modern contrivances and trappings and conveniences of modern life, then you'll actually have more time to think. You'll actually have more time to write poetry. He's talked about the farmers of old Japan who had so much time during the off season when they weren't planting and when they weren't reaping the produce from the crops, that they had so much extra time that they would write haiku and write music and stuff like that. And that just sounded really romantic to me. Like, wow, you've got all that. And they would go hunting because they would have so much time waiting for the crops to mature and to, gather in everything that had grown. And that was just nice to read about that. He's kind of like a prophet, you know. Prophets, they tell you these things about how you might be able to live a better life, and it's always going against the grain of how most of society is headed, and what most of society values as important. So I really liked reading about it. It made me think, and I want to leave everything and go become a farmer now. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
let's just sell everything.
Okay.
And go work the land and live go live in a mud hut or a trailer or something. Really? Dream10X, baby. I also wanted to. So Dream10X came from the whole 10X thing. We stole that from Grant Cardone. He's one of the business gurus that I try to buy wisdom from, try to listen to and get financial wisdom from. And his big thing is if you wanna get out of debt, if you want to be self-sustaining financially, you've got to take massive action. You've got to, your problem is not debt. Your problem is income. You need to get as much income as you can. He claims that the average American needs, $5 million or more in order to be financially secure. That's I can't even imagine having $5 million put away. So his thought is, or his idea, you get in, you invest in rental properties, apartment buildings, and you just take massive action. You write books, you talk to people, connect or whatever. Just do as much as you can to get as much passive income as you can. Contrast that with Fukuoka, who says you can live a happy, abundant life by doing none of that, by having no income, just by living in nature. So wow, very contrasting sides of what we could potentially do as humans to live a more fruitful, successful life.
Yeah.
We either take massive action or we don't take action and we live in nature the way nature intended.
There's some of the nicest, happiest people I ever met were in this random, small nothing farm in China. And they literally had nothing. They worked exactly what you talked about, worked the land, and they lived in small little, straw houses and stuff. And they were generous, they were kind, they were nice. It was amazing. And that really stuck with me.
They had no bosses, they had no commutes, they had no middle management,
work the land.
No corporate ladder to pretend they're climbing.
It's very communal, very, everybody contributes to the good of the society in this small little...
And that's exactly what he says. And riffing on the last 2 episodes of this podcast, that's the way my great-grandfather lived was on a farm, but it's interesting how he did not want his kids being farmers.
Yeah. We don't want you to have this hard life that we had.
And so maybe... Which
has contributed to our disconnection from nature.
Yeah. So maybe he was...
Chapter 1.
I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. Maybe... I'm just curious. I wish I could talk to my great-grandfather now. Why what was unfulfilling about your farming life, your life as a farmer, and why did you not want that for your kids or your lineage? Because now I'm thinking that might be the way that we have the most fulfilling lives is to be a farmer. Before that, like we talked about, we were hunter-gatherers and we were always on the move, and then we discovered the agrarian lifestyle. Ability to read the seasons, ability to sow and reap, and that planted us and that increased our knowledge and that helped us get away from nature. So now we're essentially as far removed as nature as we could be, but maybe that's the wrong course too. Maybe we need to get back to being an agrarian society who's in nature, because that's where our happiest selves are. And that takes me to the next thing I'm going to read.
This is my Christmas present.
This is to me.
No?
To me, right?
No, to me, that you're reading my dissertation.
This is our Christmas present to ourselves. This is Dr. Capel's dissertation, and you want to give me the summary in the next 30 seconds?
Well, let me see how this translated, because he's talking about all these amazing things and how we need to recommune to nature, and we've lost our disconnection to nature. I'm like, yeah, that's chapter 2. And then he's like, how do we reconnect and rebuild our lives? That's chapter 5.
Of your dissertation. So yeah.
So I mentioned that, and we laughed because, I've defended 4 years ago, and he lived with me for 10 years throughout the whole journey, and now all of a sudden it's like, I'm gonna read it, and I'm so excited, and I'm overjoyed that you're gonna read it.
Okay, well, what is the summary of it?
Oh, yes.
I'm glad you're happy. Summarize
I'm
it.
very happy. So it's, I researched people who took long, extensive trips into nature. So people who rode oceans and hiked the Appalachian Trail, were in nature for more than 90 days, and whether and how they were able to reconnect to nature and what the outcome was after. And so we'll talk more about what actually happened, unless you want to read it yourself. And it was very fascinating. So it's all about biophilia. Our biophilia is our innate connection to nature, and how we have become disconnected from it, and how do we regain that as humans to be the best humans that we can be. So it fits right in with the theme of the last 2 books you've read.
Cool. Is it written for like an 8th grader level?
You're so
Will I be
pretty.
able to understand it?
He's so pretty. Isn't he pretty? Flex for me, baby. Flex for me.
All right. On that, thanks for watching this. We'll talk to you next book. Over and out.